Hello, everyone. My name is Ezra, otherwise known as E-Soup. Today we are starting Volume 6 of Ballad of Sword and Wine. And I'm excited to start a new volume, but I'm very nervous because of where we left off. We're reading chapters 186 to 190 today. Yeah, as always, please give the stream a like, and, we're gonna see how this goes, I guess. Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, exactly what... Yeah, same Lonjade. Excited and nervous. Also, Blue pointed out that the wolves on the cover look sad, and they do. On the back cover, you can see the wolves, and they're not very happy looking. Maybe you could see it better there. The lighting is being weird, but they look a little upset. And I don't like that. Blue, you said that's how my dog looked at me when I refused to give him more food after he had a full dinner. It's just like that. Yeah. Uh, I can't deal with that. But we're gonna have to. We can't ignore this any longer. Oh yeah, it's blue. It's just my lighting creates some glare off of the book cover. It makes it a little bit harder to see. But when I look at it in real life, I can definitely see it. Uh Although I guess it would make sense if it's even more clear in digital. But yeah, Oh, you looked at your version and you couldn't see it. Oh. I don't know, I kind of just have to turn it away from the light in a certain way. Um Yeah, I don't know what we're in for this one. Um, but we've gotta just pony up and do it, I guess. So so without further ado, I'm gonna get started. So we're on probably it's page 11. Oh no, page 13 for chapter 186, which is called Blizzard. The boundary between sky and the earth was erased as the blizzard roared across the battlegrounds and engulfed the eastern range of the Hongyan Mountains. The world was a boundless expanse of white snow as far as the eye could see. Hasen had left the battlefield, but the snowstorm was blinding. I was wondering if we would pick up right where we left off with Xiaoqie, but apparently not. Oh, Saikin, you said it gets better. That's all I can hope for. Hasen had left the battlefield, but the snowstorm was blinding. Worried he'd lose his bearings in the snowfields overnight, he retreated to the abandoned relay station. The scorpions Hasen was leading all possessed features similar to the people of Great Zhou. As soon as they returned, they had shed the Libe cavalry armor they'd worn as a disguise, and were now sitting around drinking tea. Zhou, one of the scorpions, wiped the token attached to his stolen armor and squinted at the text in the glow of the fire. This one was surnamed Zhou, huh? Mine's Fu. Another man raised a token. It's a man from the Libe homeland. Wolves all hail from the Libe homeland. Uli Han, a bearded man with a scar over one cheek, looked around at the younger men joking with each other, then at Hasen, who'd been silent throughout. You slew the king of wolves tonight. Hasen, from now on, you are the king of the northern battlefields. The northern battlefields had always belonged to the king of wolves. Xiao Fengshu occupied the highest peak of the Hongyan Mountains with his valor and military prowess. For the last 20 years, the mere mention of this man had struck fear into the hearts of the 12 tribes of Biansha. Everyone here was acutely familiar with the legends surrounding him. Yet tonight, they had returned victorious, and the man they had slain was no ordinary mortal, but the war god of Li Bei. Hassan sipped his tea and smiled shyly at Ulihan. He had always possessed an understated intelligence, but after tonight, no one would dare belittle him. Ulihan could already see how fast Bian Sha would raise Li Bei in the coming years. Their commanders understood the present Li Bei all too well. Xiao Jiming had yet to recover from his injuries, and Xiao Qie was but a fledgling. Now I know what's probably going to happen at some point is they're going to underestimate Xiao Qie, and he's going to learn a lot, and he's going to turn around and fuck shit up. Blue, you know what I hate? Hassan really feels like a genuinely nice guy. Yeah, he doesn't feel like a villain. But just because of the war and this ongoing war and like the position that everybody's in, he's the bad guy. Oh, if I could find my place again. Hassan sipped his tea and smiled shyly at Ulihan. He had always possessed an understated intelligence, but after tonight, no one would dare belittle him. Sorry, I want to make sure I actually read everything before that. Did it? I don't remember what I just read. I'm so sorry. I didn't take my ADHD meds today, and it's showing. I think that I read a little bit down that page. I didn't just stop after the... I'm pretty sure I'm at the right place. Just tell me if I missed anything. He had always possessed an understated intelligence, but after tonight, no one would dare belittle him. Ulihan could already see how fast Bian Sha would raise Li Bei in the coming years. Their commanders understood the present Li Bei all too well. Oh no, I'm sorry. I had read that already, didn't I? I am? I'm good, or I did skip something? Their commanders understood the present Li Bei all too well. Xiao Jiming had yet to recover from his injuries, and Xiao Qie was but a fledgling. Li Bei had a dearth of commanding generals and was facing a bitterly cold winter. Hassan had been waiting for this moment a very long time. But you don't look happy, Ulihan observed. Okay, yeah, I didn't skip, I just reread part of that paragraph again. Sorry. Not quite what I expected. Hassan cradled the bowl in his hands and recalled his war trophy. I grew up listening to legends of him. My father always said he was invincible. The Esuhuri will be proud of you. Ulihan thought for a moment. What you have severed tonight is also the head of the Li Bei armored cavalry. Ouch. Hassan drank his tea and didn't answer. But Ulihan was right. It wasn't just Xiao Fengshu's, but an army's head Hassan had removed this night. All along, the iron wall standing in the north had seemed indestructible. Yet when Hassan stood before it at last, he'd found there was a fatal chink in the Li Bei armored cavalry's armor. This army was far too centralized. Although their faith was rooted in the land they stood on, they were overly reliant on their commander. They were still too new. Every single soldier had his eyes locked on Xiao Fengshu. As long as Xiao Fengshu was there, the troops thought, the Li Bei armored cavalry would ride triumphant out of every battle. Amor understood this, and so did Hassan. Since the start of the reign of Tianchen, the Li Bei armored cavalry had begun to lose the initiative. Xiao Jiming's temporary defeat was the first sign of their collapse. As soon as Xiao Fengshu stepped back onto the field, Hassan was certain the Li Bei armored cavalry's leadership was also the key to taking them down. Hassan had been transferred north specifically to familiarize himself with Xiao Fengshu. He had followed Amor in his battles all over the land since he was 8 years old, and the name spoken most in the commander's tent had always been Xiao Fengshu's. At a time when Xiao Fengshu still knew nothing of him, he had already learned everything there was to know about the King Wolf. Hasen didn't want to win just one battle. He wanted to topple Li Bei on every front. As to who would be grief-stricken over this, it was not his to consider, just as Li Bei had never considered Bian Sha's suffering. There it is. Yep. That's the thing with war. Hasen wanted to crush his opponent to blood and dust. He wanted to pierce his opponent's heart so thoroughly they would never recover from the setback. The time for Bian Sha to turn the tables was now. The two parties had been at odds too long, sharpening their fangs and accumulating debts of blood. Compassion for their enemy was tantamount to suicide. As the fire burned down to embers, the scorpions scattered, looking for a corner in which to rest. Leaving Uli Han the night watch, Hasen leaned against an old cabinet and closed his eyes. The frigid wind howled over the eaves, sending the wind chimes hanging at the relay station's entrance clanking violently. All color had drained from the world, leaving only black and white, as the night and snow tore into each other. Snowflakes, like tattered wads of cotton, piled up into snow dunes, and the footprints the men had left in the snow were soon swallowed up. A scorpion standing outside the relay station to piss was grabbed by the throat before he could untie his pants. A muffled crack followed, and the scorpion's body was lowered slowly to the ground. Uli Han had an acute sense of hearing. Immediately, his hand went to his iron hammer. He stared menacingly at the doorway and whispered, "The wolf has come." The scorpion closest to the entrance shifted silently to peek through the crack between the doors. The moment he bent over, a long blade plunged through the gap and straight through his head. No one in the relay station made a sound. Hasen watched calmly as that blade withdrew, splashing the door with crimson. The stench of blood filled the air. The door flew open, and a gust of wind extinguished the fire and plunged the house into darkness. A figure bearing a striking resemblance to Xiao Fengshu loomed in the doorway. Uli Han broke out into... I can speak. Uli Han broke out in a cold sweat. Yes, Blue, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like the start of a new season of a TV show. They did a great job starting the volume here. Absolutely. Oh my god. Okay. I thought we were gonna, like, be in some doom and gloom for a little while longer, and I know it's gonna happen. We're gonna go back to the doom and gloom. But instead of, like, continuing the doom and gloom, it was like, okay, take a breather. Now Xiao Qie is getting some revenge. We're gonna revisit those feelings in a second, though. Great way to do it. For a suspended moment, all was silent. Then the scorpions burst into action. Nearly half their number had perished during their ambush on Xiao Fengshu, and those that remained were exhausted. Now again they felt the fear of being run through by the king of wolves. The scorpions prayed this wolf pup didn't have the same arm strength as his father. Yet every man who rushed forward was nailed to the floor. A dark figure blocked the silver light peeking from the entrance. Hot, viscous blood splattered onto their faces. Uli Han didn't wipe it off. In the darkness, he swung his hammer toward Xiao Qie's face, the same way he had swung it at Xiao Fengshu's. Xiao Qie blocked Uli Han's forearm, stopping him mid-swing. Surrounded on all sides, he didn't try to bring up his blade as he freed it from the corpse below him, but merely smashed the carved demon head on the hilt up into Uli Han's face. Uli Han tried to back up, but Xiao Qie didn't release his grip. A scorpion behind him grabbed Wolf's Fang. Xiaoqia let the blade fall and punched Ulihan to the ground with his bare fist. Ulihan's muscular body crashed into the remains of the fire, knocking it over. His face was drenched in blood. He could feel the bridge of his nose was broken. He shook his head. His ears were ringing from the impact of Xiaoqia's powerful strike, and his vision swam. He spat out a tooth knocked loose by the blow and mumbled thickly, "Kill him." Hassan sensed a pair of eyes locked on him. From the moment the door opened, he'd felt the intensity of that gaze. Hassan knew what Xiaoqia had come for, but he wouldn't return it. It was a trophy he was determined to keep. He gripped his pike dagger, but Xiaoqia didn't give him the opportunity to use it. He lifted a scorpion from the ground and held the man up before him as a shield, using that sturdy human body to slam Hassan against the cabinet. Xiaoqia's next punch missed his target, and the cabinet door burst apart. The cabinet collapsed with a loud crash, giving Hassan a moment to catch his breath. The next strike of his pike dagger was swift and fierce, but Xiaoqia didn't dodge. He grasped the blade and wrenched it toward himself. Hassan had experienced Xiaoqia's strength back in Readalong Banner. He knew the dagger was as good as gone. He abandoned it, and bent at the waist to dodge Xiaoqia's next blow. Xiaoqia held tight to the dagger as Ulihan pounced on him from the side. That mountainous body slammed Xiaoqia against the wall, and Ulihan paid him back with a heavy punch. His fist smashed into Xiaoqia like a brick. Mouth filling with blood, Xiaoqia grabbed Ulihan's collar. Wait. Oh, hold on. His sword has a demon head on the hilt. I read that, but I just went right past it. I didn't even realize, but that's amazing. And yeah, Blue, you're so right. Love how we can see E swooning in real time here. Yeah. Henry, you were too busy picturing Za'an. That's fair. That's who we're all swooning over. Mouth filling with blood, Xiaoqia grabbed Ulihan's collar. He turned his head aside to dodge the next blow, and slammed his head into Ulihan's injured nose. Ulihan's hand flew up to cover his face, and Xiaoqia flipped the dagger in his hand. Keeping the sharp tip of the blade between his fingers, he slammed a fist into Ulihan's face before he could move out of the way. The man let out a howl of fury as the dagger embedded himself in his right eye. Blood poured from his face as he bent over, convulsing in pain, and cursed in the Biansha tongue. But Xiaoqia was still moving. He yanked Ulihan up by the hair and lunged forward to slam Ulihan's head against the wall. There was a sickening thud, then another, until the wall was awash in blood. Another scorpion threw his arms around Xiaoqia's waist and crouched to flip him over, but Xiaoqia didn't budge. He felt around for the scimitar on the scorpion's side and released his grip on Ulihan. Ulihan cried out in pain and stumbled away. He'd made it only 2 steps when he felt a coolness on his neck. Before he could register what was happening, his blood spurted like a fountain, and his head tumbled from his shoulders. Nose filled with the metallic stench of blood, Xiaoqia wiped his face, revealing a pair of gleaming eyes in the darkness, brimming with insanity and hatred. He looked like a ravenous wolf, one whose sense of reason had been completely engulfed by the heavy snow. He stared at Hassan and said, each word deliberate, "Give my father back to me." Hassan brushed back the red hair in front of his eyes. His voice was cold and detached as he said, "Then will your father give my brother back to me?" Xiaoqia wasn't interested in hearing this man speak. He sprang at him, and the two crashed through the window and rolled into the snowstorm. Hassan struck back with all his might. He knocked Xiaoqia down into the snow, then nimbly danced back as he gasped for breath. Tone frosty, he said. Your father's armored hooves trampled my brother's head to a pulp in a blizzard just like this one. He left his corpse to rot in the wilderness. Xiao Qie scrambled to his feet and spat bloody froth into the snow. A fresh pike dagger twirled between Hua Sen's fingers. He traced one finger along the cold gleam of the blade and said expressionlessly, I'm merely returning the favor. An eye for an eye. They collided once more. The wind flung snow into their stinging eyes, and their gasping breaths were as guttural as the gale. The world itself seemed to be howling. Xiao Qie locked his hands around Ha Sen's throat and hoisted him into the air, smashing his back against the damaged wall of the relay station. The impact jolted flakes of snow off the wall. Ha Sen grabbed Xiao Qie's right arm and twisted with all his might, nearly breaking it. Xiao Qie's right hand, still damaged from his first battle with Ha Sen, went numb. He lost his grip, and Ha Sen broke away. In the next instant, the remaining scorpions dove for Xiao Qie's legs, and he went tumbling face first into the snow. Ha Sen seized his chance. He stabbed the pike dagger down on the back of Xiao Qie's neck. At the last moment, Xiao Qie shoved off the ground with his elbow and took the blade in his left shoulder instead. Okay, still ow, but less bad. Blue, you're right. So we just had a talk with Lan Zhou about being reckless. Although he's not going to think about that in this situation. Ha Sen was still trying to pull the dagger out when Xiao Qie reached around and grabbed the back of Ha Sen's head. He slammed it against the ground with terrifying force and held it firmly in place in the snow. Blood stained his shoulder. The dagger, still fixed in place, rose and fell with each of his rasping breaths. Both of Ha Sen's palms were pressed against the snowy ground. A hoarse roar escaped him, but he couldn't lift his head. Xiao Qie was as immovable as stone. Xiao Qie tightened his grip on Ha Sen's red hair, his eyes bloodshot as he bellowed, "Give him back to me." That is the end of the chapter. And what a first chapter it was. We are on page 21 for chapter 187, which is called Approach. Ha Sen panted in the snow. His cheek stung where the ice of the snowfield scraped it, and the nape of his neck was flushed from strain. I normally say we drink to the word nape, but this doesn't apply. As the howl of the wind at Xiao Qie's back intensified, an iron hammer swung out of the blizzard and knocked him down. Seizing his chance, Ha Sen climbed to his feet and spat out a mouthful of ice. The scorpions had suffered heavy losses on this expedition. Of the remaining 10 or so who had crossed paths with Xiao Qie, only a few remained. A scorpion on night patrol in the distance blew his horn, and the wind carried the sound over to Ha Sen. He backed away. The wolf pack was charging this way. Ha Sen reluctantly mounted his horse. His hand went to the hilt of his scimitar, but before he could draw it, a gerfalcon swooped down from the sky, its cry erupting in his ears. In the next instant, a long arrow burst through the snowstorm, darkness billowing behind it, and hurtled straight for his head. Xiao Qie braced himself against the ground. His back was soaked through, though he couldn't tell if it was with blood or sweat. Fingers sticky, he grabbed a handful of snow and stuffed it into his mouth, swallowing the blood between his teeth. He climbed to his feet and lunged for Ha Sen. The force of it almost knocked Ha Sen off his horse. He struck out with his elbow. Xiao Qie grabbed it, and Ha Sen's world flipped as Xiao Qie flung him to the ground. Before Ha Sen could return the strike, Xiao Qie's fist sank into his stomach. Ha Sen choked out bile, hissing as he felt the ache in his mouth. He slammed a boot into Xiao Qie's chest and levered himself up from the ground. But Xiao Jie was unbelievably tenacious. The only way to escape was to take him out. Hassan understood this kind of tenacity. He broke into a run alongside his galloping horse and swung astride before Xiao Jie could make his next attack. With a piercing whistle, he ripped off the sack tied to his saddle and held it high. Hassan's fingers tightened on the sack. Never had he felt such intense unwillingness to concede a battle. But in the next moment, he flung the sack away. As he turned his horse around, he spat with disgust, voice cutting through the wind. After tonight, my name will be a shadow over the Libe armored cavalry. You'll pay back double what you've owed me since the battles on the eastern mountain ranges. His red hair flared bright against the snow, the fiery manifestation of his hatred. Take your father and scram. Xiao Jie understood instantly what the sack was. The bitter wind raged as he staggered over the snow, dashing toward it with all he had. As he dropped to the ground and rolled, he caught firm hold of the sack. Hassan cracked his horsewhip and galloped away into the vast expanse of snow. Xiao Jie lay on the ground, hugging the sack tightly as he stared up at the vast dome of heaven. His chest heaved. He clenched his teeth, unwilling to shed another tear. But he couldn't contain his sobs. He couldn't. He couldn't look at Xiao Fengshu in his arms. Henry, why did you say stop, drop, and roll just like his head? Well, I guess we all need humor at a time like this. Too soon. Oh, goodness. The armored cavalry swarmed over. Zuo Qianqiu, in the lead, was first to tumble down from his horse. Countless helmets were removed in the ensuing silence. Heavy snow buried Xiao Jie. He heard the wails of the Hongyan Mountains. He no longer had the strength to stand. His limbs were numb. He stared fixedly at the sky, feeling as though it was him who had died instead. The Libe armored cavalry had suffered their first fatal blow in 20 years, pierced through the heart. Hassan was right. After tonight, the Libe armored cavalry would live in his shadow. With a mere handful of scorpions, he had ground the dignity of the Libe armored cavalry to dust. This was too endless a night. The iron wall of Libe had collapsed with a crash, leaving countless men exposed. Armor was no longer their advantage. They were like wandering souls expelled from their homes, unable to find refuge anywhere. And there's a scene break. Xiao Jie told him to take the damn helmets off, and Xiao Fengshu wouldn't listen. That's right. Well, did he say take the helmets off, or did he say I'm not going to wear the helmet? Now I don't remember. But they got into an argument over which was better. I know that. He was too stubborn for his own good. Xiao Jiming was waiting to receive his father in the Libe homeland. The city was quiet as the carriage rolled through the gates, the stillness broken only by the murmur of suppressed sobs. The heir did not cry. He was neatly dressed and crowned as he descended the stairs, one step at a time, to stand before the carriage. An eternal silence followed. His body, weakened by his injuries, seemed to have shrunk from his glory days. In that heavy snow, his face was pale. A veil of gloom shrouded the firmament. The news spread throughout the empire a few days later. Chudu took down the banners of the 8 great battalions, but as Xiao Jie was still charged with regicide, the court sent no condolences to Libe. Even so, the people of the capital took down the colored lanterns outside their shops and hung up white flowers as a sign of mourning. Qi Juyan, shedding her armor and accessories, led a unit of guards that raced through the snow toward Libe. Xiao Fengshu was a legend, a junior soldier of Luosha Pass who had risen to conquer the eastern range of the Hongyan Mountains. He had been the last of the 4 generals of his generation to make a name for himself. Yet he was the only one among them to have been conferred the title of prince. Lu Ping'an was in ill health, Qi Shiyu was retired, and Feng Yisheng and now Xiao Fengshu had both perished in battle. One by one, the 4 generals from the early days of the reign of Yongyi had all fallen. 30 years had gone by in a rush, and those high-spirited youths had all returned to the lands which they belonged. Xiao Fengshu had a point, though. He said the helmets are the cavalry's only advantage against the Biansha. Without them, they'd be sitting ducks. With them, they might have a surefire advantage, or they might not. Yeah, I mean, getting hit in the head with a hammer would kill you without the helmet as well. I think the helmet makes it easier to target their head, I guess. I know there's something to it. Like, I think it's just, like, easier to hit them on the head. But it's true, like, if you don't have a helmet, then if you do get hit on the head, then you're just screwed immediately. After Xiao Fengshu's burial, Xiao Qie was the picture of calm. His howls and cries seemed to have been buried in that drift of snow, vanishing without a trace the moment he seized his father back. He ate and changed the dressings on his wounds. Ooh, I can speak. I saw a name, and I was like, what? Well, I can speak. I can say words. He ate and changed the dressings on his wounds as usual. But at night, Shen Zichuan couldn't hear him breathing. So he's with Shen Zichuan now? He seemed to have fallen into a deep slumber, numb as he greeted each new day. Sirs, my report on the ambush that night. Face swathed in bandages, the commander of 2nd Sand Camp, Jiang Sheng, stood in the hall before the other commanding generals. On the 8th day of the 12th month, while his lordship was in 1st Sand Camp, he planned an ambush. His lordship personally led Squad 3 of 1st Sand Camp north to the ambush site. I was to go around from the back to provide support. We aimed to intercept Hasen east of Tudalung Banner. The snow was especially heavy that day. It was dusk before we encountered Hasen's elite forces. Both sides engaged in battle, and we launched a direct assault on Hasen's forces, losing half of our men in the process. While taking inventory of the fallen and captured Biansha soldiers, we found that Hasen was not among them. By then, it was full dark. We drew up a plan to branch out and search westward. That was where his lordship and I split up. I came across the Biansha horsemen to the east of Tudalung Banner and took heavy casualties. By this time, I sensed something amiss. Instead of continuing west, I went against orders and turned back to join his lordship. His lordship's troops had been similarly worn down by the Biansha's guerrilla tactics. We abandoned the mission and turned back toward the camp. Halfway, we arrived at the old relay station. This is where we met the Scorpions disguised as the Libe armored cavalry. Every one of them had the token of the armored cavalry hanging from their belts. They not only understood the Zhou language, they spoke it with a Libe accent and answered our questions readily and fluently. The soldiers claimed to be subordinates of Zhao Hui's Liuyang camps. They said they sustained severe losses from Hasen's harassment and were unable to find their way in the snowstorm, so they had been forced to stop at the relay station. Hands on his knees, Zhao Hui asked with a solemn expression, "How many?" "Around 60. Jiang Sheng set the book he was holding on the table and looked at Xiao Qie, who was sitting on the very end. After a short pause, he continued, "We compiled a register of names based on the tokens Argongza brought back. See for yourself." Zhao Hui skimmed the register. "These are all brothers who have died in battle." Henry, that's an interesting question. Do we know which real Chinese accent the Libe accent corresponds to? So you can do some research and be normal about Sa'an's voice. I am curious about that too. Like, I love stuff like that. It's like I'm reading something and I'm like, I want to know what this is like in present day, if there is still a corollary of it in present day. Guo Wei, his voice hoarse from crying over the last few days, swore, "Fuck his ancestors. They stole armor and tokens from the dead. We must immediately inform all the major camps to clean up the battlefields personally from now on." "There's no point," a voice cut in. Guo Wei's hackles rose at once. "How can there be no—" But he trailed off when he saw Xiao Qia's face. Xiao Qia had brought back Xiao Fengshu. It was impossible for Guo Wei to shoot his mouth off as he had before. His expression underwent several changes, but he still ground out, "We'll have to deal with it somehow. We can't give them any more opportunities." Zuo Qianqiu, however, understood. If Biansha can equip themselves with iron hammers, they can surely counterfeit tokens as well. What we need to do is figure out how to recognize scorpions. Xiao Jiming, sitting with his cloak draped around him, contemplated for a moment. "Recall the tokens. We'll no longer use them. Continue with what you were saying." No, that's smart, because, like, if they're no longer using the tokens, then if they, some counterfeit soldiers show up and are like, "Here's my token," they'll immediately know that they're not for real Libe people. Zhang Sheng drew in a breath. "The scorpions deceived us. We laid down our blades, and that was when it happened." At this point, he pulled his bandages aside and exposed half his face. The iron hammers were specifically designed to defeat the armored cavalry. One blow to the helmet will cause blurred vision and ringing ears. You'll black out if you are lucky. If not, you'll die bleeding from the nose and mouth. My men couldn't react in time, and I was knocked unconscious. I don't know what happened after. This time, no one made a sound. They had all learned about the scorpions via a private letter from Zhongbo, but no one had understood the severity of the threat they posed. Gu Jin stepped forward with a bow and took over from Zhang Sheng. "After examining the battlefield, this is my conjecture. Ha Sen failed to besiege his lordship, so he changed tactics. He outflanked him on the snowfield with his elusive elite troops, and trapped his lordship in the middle. Thus, Squad 3 was totally annihilated." "Bullshit. I don't believe it. His lordship is invincible in the field." Guo Wei pushed to his feet and paced irritably up and down, his eyes reddening at the rims. "Who the fuck is Ha Sen? He was still sucking milk from his mother's tit when his lordship was the uncrowned king of the northern battlegrounds. We've been fighting Biansha across the mountains and grasslands for almost 20 years. There's no way an armored cavalry led by his lordship could lose." Guo Wei had been promoted by Xiao Jiming, but he had been recruited by Xiao Fengshu. This was something he couldn't accept. When he was at base camp, the tactics he'd used against Hu Helu had all been learned from Xiao Jiming. And although Xiao Fengshu had never personally taught him, Guo Wei's style of combat was obviously an imitation of Xiao Fengshu's. Voices rose in the hall, the noise gradually swelling to a crescendo. They were like a tower on the brink of collapse. Everybody's nerves were stretched taut as they struggled to stabilize the Libe armored cavalry, but the sense that they were inching toward complete breakdown pervaded the atmosphere. The Prince of Libe was dead. This phrase was like a nightmare. It sat heavy on everyone's mind, crushing them beneath its weight. They were helpless against Ha Sen. Only at this moment did they confront the harsh realization that the Libe armored cavalry had fallen behind a moor long ago. Xiao Jie didn't utter another word after that first comment. He sat in silence, his head aching from the noise. The injuries on his shoulder and arm plagued him. All he heard was Hasen, Hasen, this name being shouted everywhere. The name seemed to follow him everywhere. At night, Shen Zichuan couldn't sleep soundly. He woke every hour or so to make sure Xiao Qie was still there. When he awoke this night, the space beside him was empty. Shen Zichuan rose and hurried to the doorway, where he found Xiao Qie standing in the freezing courtyard, dressed only in the single layer he slept in. It was snowing again. His shoulders were blanketed in a thin layer of white. Hearing movement, he looked back and smiled faintly at Shen Zichuan, an expression meant to reassure. Shen Zichuan gazed at him. Xiao Qie's eyes gradually reddened under that gaze. Shen Zichuan watched the tears slide slowly down his cheeks. He understood everything. Since that day, Xiao Qie had been lost in his memory of the blizzard. The wolf pup that had run alone for dozens of li had not returned at all. Shen Zichuan pushed open the door without even putting on his shoes. Xiao Qie had already begun to choke with sobs as he watched Shen Zichuan approach. It was as if he finally found a release for everything he'd suppressed within his heart. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he called out, "Lanzhou." Shen Zichuan embraced Xiao Qie tightly and stood on tiptoe to wrap a hand around the back of his head. He made a barrier of himself, taking the devastated, battered Xiao Qie completely into the protective shelter of his arms. That's the end of that chapter. This is very devastating, but I like how we're getting to see, like, Shen Zichuan is getting to kind of care for Xiao Qie in the way that Xiao Qie has cared for him and, like, been his support. And now it's like Shen Zichuan is the one who needs to do it. I mean, they've supported each other through so many things, but just, like, in terms of, like, who is being the rock for someone through grief. So that's interesting to see. And also, I'm devastated. And we are... Hold on, let me see how long... Okay, this is a short chapter, once again. We're on page 29 for chapter 188, which is called Offense and Defense. Li Bei was still deep in grief when Bian Sha attacked again. After the battle in the snow, Ha Sen had become the indisputable Esuhuri of the Hanma tribe, his reputation comparable to that of a Moor. But he didn't have time to sit around listening to compliments. He had to seize the opportunity to strike Li Bei while they were down. If he could shift the front line west of Tudalung Banner, the Biansha horsemen could take over the fertile pastures along the eastern range of the Hongyan Mountains by the start of spring. First and second sand camps suffered their most brutal attack of the year. With Jiang Sheng injured and unable to command his troops, Xiao Jiming deployed Zhao Hui and Guo Wei Li to lead the defense. The Scorpions cost them both heavy casualties in battle. The Li Bei armored cavalry was in a terrible predicament. Stripped of their heavy armor, they would face a swift and furious slaughter at the hands of the elite forces of Biansha. The inability of Li Bei's battle steeds to outrun the Biansha horsemen also meant they were unable to escape if they were caught in a trap. Yet if they put their heavy armor back on, the elite unit of Scorpions would target them with hammers. Guo Wei Li lost all 3 battles he fought, surviving by the skin of his teeth each time. In the month that followed, the entire front line suffered a beatdown. It was as though Ha Sen wielded a scimitar in his left hand and an iron hammer in his right, every single strike capable of landing a blow on one of Li Bei's vital points. Even this wasn't the most terrifying thing about him. Ha Sen was knowledgeable about every opponent he crossed swords with. He was extraordinarily familiar with the battlefield and had committed all the commanding generals of Li Bei to memory. He could counter anyone who came his way. Amor had taught the art of adaptability to Hasen without reservation, and now, on the northern battlegrounds, Hasen was executing it with incredible skill. Zhao Hui practically rolled off the back of his horse. He handed his helmet to his deputy general and, refusing to let anyone support him, sank to the ground and threw up everything in his stomach. Both his hands were trembling. He flopped over onto his back in the snow and panted. First Sand Camp's commanding general, Zhao Hui, submits his military report. He said from this position, "We encountered scorpions in the north. Their numbers far exceeded 5,000. Squad 7, our left flank, was completely wiped out. The center was forced to retreat. We lost again." The report was swiftly recorded by a camp aide. Urgent correspondence would be sent out of the camp immediately, to be delivered to the homeland the next day. Xiao Jiming remained out of commission, so all military affairs had to be relayed like this. To guard against surprise attacks, he gave the commanding generals of all the camps the authority to mobilize troops in the face of danger. But this also meant hot-headed generals, like Guo Weili, no longer had a chain holding them in check. Should they fall into a trap, it was likely they would never return. "It's really hammer time, huh?" Guo Weili emerged from the tent and extended a hand to the fallen general. Zhao Hui waved him off. He couldn't get up. The nausea from being smashed senseless through his helmet showed no sign of receding. At least lying in the snow felt a little more comfortable. Wu Ziyu is guarding 3rd Sand Camp, and Gongzi has yet to recover from his injuries. Who's handling the task of transporting military supplies? Guo Weili crouched down beside Zhao Hui. He fished out a wad of tobacco from his lapels and popped it into his mouth to chew. "Henry, you said this might be the most exasperated I've seen you. About something that you said, or just about what I'm reading in general?" Because of both. Maybe both might be the answer. Zhao Hui spread his arms and answered feebly, "Chen Yang." Sensing Guo Weili's next question, he continued, "He's been by Gongzi's side for 6 years now, taking care of logistics. From things as large as the Imperial Army, to ones as small as a courtyard household. He knows what he's doing. Right now, he's at border camp making a survey of the territory, so he can anticipate the supplies needed in advance. As long as the roads stay unobstructed, he'll make sure the camps have what they need." Looking up at the snowflakes fluttering down from the sky, Guo Weili said, "We need battle steeds." They had been lacking horses since the start of autumn. The rate at which they were losing mounts had been slower then, and the stables in the homeland could still keep up with the army's demand. But the armor-clad battle steeds couldn't withstand the heavy hammers either. Their injuries were often more severe than the soldiers. Then there was the bitter cold and rough terrain. Their horses couldn't endure these as well as the Bian Cha's hardy ponies could. The sky gradually darkened. Zhao Hui regained a little energy and sat up. He wiped blood off his face, then said to Guo Weili, "That one strike from the hammer made my nose bleed. I couldn't wipe it away in time and swallowed it all." Gross. Guo Weili, his hair a tangled snarl, didn't want to stand up either, having squatted until his legs were numb. He paused, then said in a low, hoarse voice, "In the past, I considered Hu Helu one of Bian Sha's elites. But now that I've encountered Hasen, I realize Hu Helu is nothing." Zhao Hui brushed off the dusting of snow on his knees. "Hasen is bold in his deployment of troops, and has infinite tricks up his sleeve. He knows us inside out." He sighed. "And therein lies the difficulty." Though no one spoke of it, they all knew Hasen's most formidable quality had yet to be displayed. Hasen had fought offensive battles against the Bianjun Commandery in the south, the hardest of all to attack, for several years. Compared to field battles, he was even better at cracking fortresses. Now that Li Bei had switched completely from offense to defense, the camps had become rudimentary fortresses. It wouldn't be long before they got a personal taste of Hassan's siege attacks coming down on them like torrential rain. Guo Weili hated Hassan with every fiber of his being, but even he had to concede the man was a genius born for the battlefield. To date, Guo Weili had never met a general who could hold the initiative so firmly in his hands. He was as mercurial as the wind, and gave Li Bei no chance to strike back. Whoever takes the initiative controls the rhythm. Guo Weili spat out the chewed-up tobacco. We have to stall his momentum even if we lose. Otherwise, we won't have to wait for the beginning of spring. In less than half a month, the battleground will fall into their hands. Suddenly, a flickering flame appeared in the distance. Both stared at it in silence before scrambling to their feet. Fuck. Squinting into the wind, Guo Weili pointed at the watchtower and bellowed. Are you fucking blind? Who's in the southeast? The soldier on the watchtower raised a hand to shield himself from the blowing gale, and heard the sound of horses' hooves downwind. Riders were approaching on the road connecting them to Second Sand Camp in the southeast, but he couldn't immediately determine who they were. The horsemen. Zhao Hui scooped up his helmet from the ground, then shouted at the top of his lungs, It's the Biansha horsemen! Second Sand Camp has fallen. Guo Weili hissed through a clenched jaw. Hassan, that son of a bitch. In the chaos that ensued, they watched as the light grew closer and closer. The night patrol squad hadn't sounded the alarm, so it was possible the southeast had been completely cut off. Along with the pounding of hooves, a heavy, clattering sound reached their ears. Catapults. The helmet in Zhao Hui's hands clanked to the ground. He said in a daze, We're done for. Bullshit. Guo Weili hauled Zhao Hui over and shouted as he dragged him along. Extinguish the fucking fires in the watchtower. He shoved Zhao Hui forward and followed up with the punch that made Zhao Hui's nose bleed again. What are you, a dog? Zhao Hui covered his nose and spat out a mouthful of bloody foam. That was probably not necessary to do. We're wolves. Guo Weili stared viciously toward the southeast. The hardest iron wall in the world is not the Bianjun Commandery. It's the Li Bei armored cavalry. He beat his own chest with a clenched fist and hollered, The battleground in the north belongs to Xiaofang Shu, and the Li Bei armored cavalry rule this battlefield. Whoever thinks himself a dog can eat shit. I'll never retreat. We are wolves. His eyes were red as he shouted, voice cracking, I'll bite those motherfuckers to death. Zhao Hui swiped at his bleeding nose and aimed a kick at Guo Weili from behind. Guo Weili, jaw shadowed with stubble, locked eyes with him. Isn't attacking fortresses Hassan's strong suit? Zhao Hui retrieved his helmet and snorted back blood. We'll see about that. There was a click as the mechanism kicked into action, and baffles swiftly sealed off the crenels atop all four sides of the camp walls, instantly turning First Sand Camp into an impregnable fort. The Biansha horsemen stopped a short distance from the walls. Even in the darkness, Hassan could see the heavy crossbows protruding from those fortress walls. A few years ago, Xiao Jiming had refitted the walls of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd sand camps into heavy-duty ramparts. Just as Xiao Qia had when he first faced 3rd Sand Camp, Hassan quickly came to understand that this was a true iron drum, one that left no opening for foes to exploit. The watchtower fires had been extinguished. No one outside the walls could see enough to even guess the camp's layout. 2 mounted crossbows, forged by Qidong's craftsmen, had also been hidden away in 1st Sand Camp. At the time, Xiao Jiming had gone to enormous lengths to keep them from the prying eyes of Chudu. Now, the Li Bei armored cavalry pushed them out onto the ramparts. As soldiers loaded the heavy bolts, Biansha's catapults had already begun to move. Boulders as heavy as 100 pounds hurtled through the air, smashing into the camp's walls. What did you say? Oh yeah, Blue, you said reminds me of the Lord of the Rings siege scenes. Same here. I can see it now. The crenels in the walls of First Sand Camp were reserved for archers. To seal these up under siege, they had added a mobile baffle wall to the parapet. But the baffles were made of wood. They couldn't withstand heavy bombardment. I'm trying to visualize it, but I don't really know what a baffle is. Hassan clearly had his eyes on this weakness. Loose the arrows. Loose the arrows. Guo Wei Li took large strides, slapping the backs of the cavalry as he passed them on the battlements. A storm of short bolts rained down. Zhao Hui saw through a narrow opening in the battlement that Hassan's cavalry had retreated, and an infantry had taken their place in the vanguard. They raised a dense array of iron shields to block the hail of arrows. The arrows socked into the surface of the shields, but inflicted no casualties at all. That's the iron shield of the Qidong garrison troops, Zhao Hui said. He's absorbed the battlefield tactics of both the north and south. Is he a fucking jackal? Guo Wei Li shouted at the top of his lungs. He had his hands braced on the wall, listening to the intensifying sound of smashing rocks. They're no longer a cavalry. He was right. After adding an infantry equipped with iron shields, the horsemen were no longer merely a cavalry. The commanding generals had been correct to worry. In the past 6 years, Bian Shah had acquired resources they couldn't begin to imagine. It was to this that Hassan owed many of his innovations. Loading the mounted crossbows was time-consuming. Dozens of men sweated over the weapons. One crossbow jammed just before it was fired. Is it broken? Guo Wei Li pushed the men away, stomped on the heavy machine, and pounded it irritably a few times. Bloody hell, Qidong's contraption. The crossbow trigger clicked into action, and the heavy bolt shot forth. It had caught on the corner of Guo Wei Li's clothes. The instant it went flying, he fell flat on his face. The eerie whistle of those iron-headed bolts slicing through the wind followed close on the missiles' tails as they hurtled toward Hassan's men. The iron shields of Bian Shah came up once again. But this time it was futile. The force of impact staved the shields in. 2 rows of tightly packed soldiers toppled to the ground under the resulting shockwave. Zhao Hui had just opened his mouth to report the good news when the baffle beside his head exploded. He crouched down, hands covering his head, and was nearly impaled through the eye by a flying wooden splinter. The baffle was destroyed. Fuck, Zhao Hui muttered, his head and face covered in dust. I'll have to tell the heir to install iron ones. A whistle sounded outside the walls, and Sakura falcons swooped down through the thick clouds. Guo Wei Li followed suit and whistled as well. The falcon cage beside the stables slid open with a whoosh. The falcons, which had been preserving their strength over the last few days, were bursting with energy. Meng flapped his wings as the tethers on his legs rattled. The soldiers in charge of the falcons loosened the tethers. Meng wouldn't heed the whistled command of anyone but his master. He soared into the sky, circling up through the dancing snow to break through the layers of clouds. In the next instant, he dove. Iron claws dug into a Sakura falcon's flesh and feathers, tearing the bird into pieces in the air. Suddenly, Guo Wei Li heard the rumble of the back gates opening. He whipped his head around, but before he could shout, a column of light cavalry streamed in through the gap. The leader's cloak slapped... oh my god. I can read. I got excited. I can read. The leader's cloak snapped in the wind as she jumped off her horse mere inches from Guo Wei Li. Hey, Qi Juyin greeted Guo Wei Li in her usual glib tones. Busy fighting? Zhao Hui bounded down from the battlements and traded a look with Guo Wei Li between breaths. Uncertain of Qi Juyin's intent, he only said, Grand Marshal. Don't call me that. Qi Juyin threw off her cloak and drew the executioner's blade at her waist. She stabbed it into the ground at her feet and laughed. Looks like I'll have to trouble you boys to keep me company tonight. Guo Weili promptly covered his chest with his hand and stared at Qi Juyin as she surveyed the surroundings. Let's see, she said calmly. Who can last longer? Your Libe armored cavalry or my Qidong garrison troops? Okay, that's the end of the chapter. That's the blue wife. Sorry, wife. Sorry, wife. Sorry. No, yeah, Vase, I was worried about what that was gonna be, but it seems like it's a good thing. And like I said, that's the end of the chapter, and it's now time for me to go to break. And we will see what the result of these, reinforcements are when we come back. Hello, I am back. Can you hear me? Okay. YouTube being weird again. There we go. Um, it was still playing the music from my thing, when my video was back on, and I was like, it's not supposed to do that. I have it muted on my end. Who said... Oh yeah, Vase, you said you noticed that Mung's character, assuming it's the character for Dream, kind of looks like a falcon. I'm pretty sure that somewhere in the book it did say it was the character for Dream. So I think you're right about that, and that's cool. I can see what you mean. It does kind of look like a falcon. I love that. I wonder if that was intentional. And I love the name Dream for him. I could be wrong, but I think they did tell us it was Dream. Probably in, like, the very first book. So it's been a while. So, we were on page 39 for chapter 189, which is called Snow Trooper. Zhao Hui thought Qi Juyin had brought reinforcements from Qidong. But when he looked behind her, he saw only a few dozen personal guards. Troops, Marshal? I'm not here to fight the battle for you, Qi Juyin said. wrapping a strip of cloth around her right hand to keep the hilt of her blade from slipping when it was soaked with blood. "But to use you to fight the battle. Starting now, you and your pal here are demoted. I'll be taking over the post of 1st Sand Camp's commanding general." Zhao Hui wasn't the only one stunned by this statement. Guo Weili froze for a moment before crying, "No way!" Qidong and Li Bei had always been friendly. During the 4th year of Xiande, they had joined forces to intercept the advance of the Biansha horsemen and recover the 6 prefectures of Zhongbo. Even so, when it came to commanding their troops, each kept to their own. Never before had they stepped into each other's territory like this. They might address Qi Juyin as Grand Marshal, but that didn't mean they were willing to heed her orders. Well, I guess you gotta do that now. Qi Wei fished an authority token from the pouch at his waist and tossed it at Guo Weili. The general caught it and turned it over. It was Xiao Jiming's own token. The boulders had already destroyed all the baffles on the southeast wall. Single-branch cannons took their place at the crenels. Although they were called cannons, they were closer to trebuchets, with a leather sling for loading rocks set on a long pole and launched manually. They were much less powerful than the catapults Hassan had brought. The infantry at the front of the Biansha ranks hoisted their iron shields. Now that they were at risk of being smashed by falling rocks, they had no choice but to slow their advance. Qi Juyin had already drawn her blade and set off towards the walls. Zhao Hui followed, taking long strides to catch up. 1st Sand Camp has only 8,000 men. We're looking at 10,000 horsemen out there. Are you here to help us hold the camp until reinforcements arrive? But now that 2nd Sand Camp's fallen, it'll be the day after tomorrow at the earliest before we can expect reinforcements. Until then... What are you nagging me about, Grandma? The walls of this camp are as thick as 8 horses. Even if we lose the baffles, they can't breach the walls. You have plenty of kerosene. Catching sight of the mounted crossbow, she continued with delight. And even 2 mounted crossbows forged by our Qidong. We don't have enough heavy bolts. Seeing that Qi Juyin meant to ride out of the fortress, Zhao Hui spoke more rapidly. We can't get back the bolts we've shot, and the reserves won't last until tomorrow. Marshal, what are you unsheathing Banisher for? Head up the wall and give us your orders. We can fight. Qi Juyin hoisted her blade and leveled her gaze at the man blocking her way. Hassan's 10,000 men are dragging along siege weapons they've never used before. To maintain the speed of their advance, he must have cut down on the rations they're carrying. He can't fight a protracted battle. As long as you have the patience, you can wait behind the walls until he retreats. Qi Juyin came in and said, "I'm the commander now." And she has the authority token of Xiao Jiming to do so. And she just called, who did she call Grandma? She called Zhao Hui Grandma. She took a few steps back and raised her voice. But missed the opportunity tonight, and you will not have another like it. Hassan regards your people as a whetstone. He intends to sharpen his new recruits on the prestige of Li Bei's iron wall. Stop being silly, gentlemen. Your so-called iron wall is merely a fig leaf. How can you call yourselves the armored cavalry if you're sticking your asses in the air like this for a beating? Guo Weili clenched the token in his fist. Zhao Hui could feel the tension in the air. Qi Juyin pointed at the southeastern gate and turned to Guo Weili, eyes gleaming with madness. Don't you want to go out there and have some fun with me? On the battlefields of the south, the one Hassan had faced most often was Lu Guangbai. The Bianjun Commandery garrison troops were like a stubborn rock blocking the opening in the Zhou Empire's fence, unwilling to budge regardless of the Biansha horsemen's torrent of attacks. Despite this, Ha Sen was more familiar with the name Qi Juyin. He had met her in the battle that had made her windstorm through the scorching plains. Ha Sen was of the mind that Qi Juyin was two different people. Her style when she assumed command from the rear was completely different than when she personally mounted her horse and took her blade in hand. She switched with ease between the roles of the Grand Marshal, who oversaw the battle from the rear, and the commanding general who rode out with the troops. She also differed from the calm and steady Lu Guangbai in this. She adjusted nimbly to changing circumstances, and would bring down her opponents using whatever was at her disposal. How else could she have achieved the feat of burning down the 13 camps of Bian Sha? She was adaptable, and that made her dangerous. The fortress gate was shut tight. As the barrage of rocks hurtled from the battlements tapered off, the iron shields of Bian Sha pressed forward to within 500 paces. Their iron shields now not only protected their bodies, but also the battering ram they'd rolled up to the gate. This type of siege engine was specifically designed for breaking fortresses. It looked like a wagon equipped with a huge tree trunk. Once they got close enough, the soldiers would use it to ram down the camp gate. Ha Sen's horsemen were chafing at the bit. They were made up of scorpions with iron hammers, and elite squads with scimitars. Should the need arise, the scorpions could switch to scimitars as well. Ha Sen was a patient man, but he didn't plan to let First Sand Camp stall for time. He'd ram the camp gate open, then set his cavalry loose to slaughter what remained of Li Bei's soldiers within. The iron shields did their job. Under their shelter, the Bian Sha infantry gradually quickened their pace, keeping the battering ram from harm. When they reached the camp gate, dozens of them exerted themselves to slam the wooden trunk against the gate, sending a shower of dust down over their heads. Ha Sen raised a hand, ready to charge inside. The camp gate groaned in muffled protest. Cracks appeared around the point of impact. To allow the soldiers at the center more space to work, the infantrymen on both sides lowered their iron shields. They shouted as they reared back, then rammed into the gate again. Wood splintered. A hole had appeared in the camp gate, which teetered on the verge of collapse. Zhao Hui stepped out on the ruined battlement and braved the wind to look down. He shouted, "Release!" Earthen jars came crashing down from the top of the wall. Kerosene splashed amid the sounds of shattering, coating the Bian Sha infantry from head to toe. With a whoosh, flames sparked, then leapt onto the Bian Sha horsemen's bodies like a nest of venomous snakes. Their iron shields couldn't ward off fire. In no time, blood-curdling I can speak, I promise. Blood-curdling screams rose up from the attackers, and the smell of burning flesh permeated the air. I almost said scleams. Yeah, Bian Sha infantry sounds so wrong after 5 volumes of Bian Sha cavalry. It is weird. The camp gate rumbled as it was hoisted up to reveal a row of war horses carrying soldiers in the heavy armor of the Li Bei armored cavalry. Qi Juyin, lightly armored, gripped Banisher as she charged like a meteor into the enemy forces, trailing hot puffs of breath from her steed. I love the name Banisher, by the way. The thunderous hooves of the armored cavalry reverberated through the snow. They followed Qi Juyin and trampled the iron shields before the gates. It was as if this army had risen from the ashes as they swept like a violent gale toward the Bian Sha horsemen waiting beyond the infantry. The scimitar-wielding elites promptly fell back, while the scorpions sat firmly on their battle steeds. At Ha Sen's whistled signal, they squared their shoulders and prepared to charge the enemy head-on. These same hammers that had taught the Li Bei armored cavalry their harshest lesson yet would smash the helmets of their adversary into a pulp tonight. Zhao Hui stood at the top of the wall overlooking the battlefield, his chest heaving as he watched. Braving the wind, a scorpion lifted his hammer and swung it at an armored cavalryman's head. Yet before it could connect, the sharp point of a blade thrust in from the side. Both hands gripping the hilt, Qi Juyin used the forward momentum of her battle steed to deflect the hammer and send the scorpion flying off his mount. As the man hit the ground, Li Bei's heavily armored cavalry reined their horses around and retreated. They were deft in their withdrawal and methodical as they scattered. Hasen heard the sound of more hooves behind that heavy armor, even before he saw a blade brandishing light cavalry ride forward to take up the space they left. No, not light cavalry. They were the Li Bei armored cavalry, without their iron armor. Guo Weili had never felt this light before. He concentrated all the pent-up frustrations of recent days into both hands, and bellowed until he was hoarse as he raced ahead. The first strike of his long sword cleaved down on the nearest scorpion. As blood spattered over the snow, he had already charged to the very front, that familiar heat returning to his palms at last. Guo Weili was so overcome with emotion his hands were trembling. Damn, he panted, almost on the verge of tears as he shouted, "Marshal, that felt amazing." Even Zhao Hui felt his eyes prickle with tears at this shout. Qi Juyin burst into hearty laughter. Her battle steed reared, and she lifted Banisher high and brought it down on another scorpion as the horse's front hooves landed back on the ground. Was the Li Bei armored cavalry no longer the Li Bei armored cavalry when they took off their heavy armor? Perhaps so. But that was the Xiao clan's Li Bei armored cavalry, not Qi Juyin's Li Bei armored cavalry. These men had retreated again and again in defeat on the snowy plains of the north, and one of the reasons was their inability to match the speed of the Bianshao ponies. But now, Hasen's horsemen would have to come to the Li Bei armored cavalry if they wanted to attack Li Bei's fort. After driving a hole through that scorpion, Guo Weili no longer feared the iron hammers. Without his heavy armor on, the scorpion's swinging hammers were noticeably sluggish. What was more, the scorpions had a weakness of their own. In order to maintain their speed, they hadn't donned any armor. The moment they lost the advantage of the iron hammers, their blood would run under Li Bei's longswords. Qi Juyin huffed out warm air as she stared down Hasen. Even at such a distance, far across the blood-splattered battlefield, the glare she speared him with was no less vicious. The scorpions and their hammers were valuable assets. Hasen couldn't afford to lose them all here. Yet, if he gave the command for them to retreat, Qi Juyin would follow suit and have Guo Weili change into heavy armor. Although she appeared reactive, she was, in fact, the proactive player who had the upper hand tonight. There was no need for her to give chase. She only needed to stand on the boundary line and wait. If Hasen wanted to press ahead, he would be serving their heads up to her on a silver platter. Before Qi Juyin, all their invincible strength amounted to nothing. Bring it on. The look in Qi Juyin's eyes was a provocation. She threw a taunting smile in his direction, and casually flicked the blood off her blade. Hasen made a swift decision. Retreat. But Hasen had brought siege weapons, ones he had gone to great lengths to acquire and transport out of Zhongbo. Retreating without them would be a terrible loss. Yet should he delegate part of his troops to transport the weapons? Yet should he delegate part of his troops to transport the weapons, they would lag behind, encumbered by the supplies. Qi Juyin raised her blade and urged her horse forward, leading Guo Weili's troops to give chase amid the flying snow. She knew Hasen's elite troops would be first to withdraw. This pursuit was like a gift to soothe an upset child. She led the Li Bei armored cavalry, who had been hunted down by the Bianshao horsemen time and time again, to hunt the Bianshao horsemen down for once. The soldiers behind her shouted curses as they charged, relishing in the fright they gave the fleeing troops. Guo Weili finally got his chance to vent his rage. Adrenaline pumping, he would have continued after them, had not Qi Juyin yanked him back by the collar. We're going back. Chi Juyin looked out at the snowfield and let her smile fade. Once you leave camp, you'll run into the same predicament as before. Hasen isn't the type to run away with his tail between his legs. Don't give him the opportunity to rally his forces. Guo Weili had been completely won over. He nodded along with Chi Juyin's words, then wheeled his horse around and said, "Marshal, let's fight like this on the snowfields too. Hasen doesn't count for shit." Hasen's not going to use fortress siege tactics in the wild. He won't charge forward but encircle your people instead. Chi Juyin pondered it. But judging by tonight, it seems the changes he's made also need to be refined. Hasen was expanding the Biansha horsemen's arsenal at a rapid rate, but he was too greedy, as evidenced by the iron shields tonight. The infantry gave the Biansha horsemen no advantage. On the contrary, they were a liability. Men on foot couldn't outrun battle steeds on the snowfields. The moment they fell behind, all that awaited them was death. They could only be used to attack fortress walls. Whatever Guo Weili would have said in response was cut off by a sharp whistle. Chi Wei, who'd been speaking with the scouts, spurred his horse over to Chi Juyin's side. "Marshal, soldiers approaching." The snow was falling harder now, brushing against the fur collars of the infantry trudging unsteadily across the snowdrift. Their hair had become white from the snow, and they walked with their heads down and shoulders hunched against the wind. They seemed exhausted, having traveled a great distance. Yet they were highly organized and could quickly drop to the ground and crawl in the snow for camouflage the instant they heard the sound of horses' hooves. These men were the most skilled infantry in the world when it came to the art of the ambush. Before traversing the desert, they had been known as the Bianjun Commandery Garrison Troops. This is the part of the movie where all the reinforcements show up that you didn't know were going to be there, and you thought that they were going to lose the battle, and then it's like, now they're going to win it, because, like, everybody's backing them up. That's what this feels like. I don't even know if there's, like, a particular thing it reminds me of, but it's just, like, that moment when you know that everything's going to be okay. It's the Bianjun Commandery, and I know that, what's his name, like, seemingly deserted, but I always thought that he was going to, like, be on Li Bei's side. I guess we will see what happens, but that's what I think is happening, at least. Before traversing the desert, they had been known as the Bianjun Commandery Garrison Troops. Chi Juyin dismounted and gazed through the heavy snow at the man at the head of the group. She was so familiar with this army, she could recognize him from Chi Wei's report alone. The man tugged down the strip of cloth covering his stubbled jaw and stood gasping for breath. He'd been gone so long, the sight of him was like a vision from a past lifetime. He smiled a little and said wearily, "Marshal, the reinforcements have arrived." It was the deserter, Lu Guangbai. And there is art. Oh my goodness, is there ever art? Can you see that clearly? It's so beautiful. I swear the QJJ art is the best art. Even amongst, like, Pseudo's art, I feel like the interior art in QJJ is, like, my absolute favorite. Yeah, we've seen him before, but it's kind of been a long time, so... Lu Guanghai. Also, did I say that's the end of the chapter? What am I reading through today? I am just reading through 190 today, so we only have one more chapter. It's a slightly longer one, I guess. So we're on page 49 for chapter 190, which is Night Talk. The Bianjun Commandery Garrison troops filed into First Sand Camp. They gathered around the bonfire, stripped off the face cloths they'd used as protection from the wind and snow, and wolfed down their food. As Qi Juyin unfastened Banisher from her belt, she noticed their spears were not the same as before. She took a seat and passed a cup of hot tea to Lu Guangbai. Lu Guangbai looked down into the cup in silence for a long time. His lordship, the prince. Sipping her own tea, Qi Juyin hummed in affirmation. How are Jiming and Sa'an? Not well. Qi Juyin deftly cut herself a slice of roast meat with a dagger and popped it into her mouth. Jiming can no longer ride after falling from his horse. He has to oversee the war from the homeland, a tremendous disadvantage when facing Hasen. Sa'an received serious injuries when he chased Hasen to recover his lordship. The battlefront in the north is in desperate need of a commander. Li Bei is on the brink of a crisis. I'll head to the homeland with you, Marshal. Lu Guangbai looked at Qi Juyin. I discovered the Biansha horseman's weakness while traversing the desert. There are a few things that can only be discussed in the presence of both you and Jiming. What if you're a spy? Qi Juyin wiped her fingers. This is Li Bei, not Qi Dong. I'll hand these men over to Zhao Hui and have them remain in First Sand Camp as part of the garrison. Lu Guangbai gently placed his own spear at his feet. I can relieve myself of my troops and armor and let you escort me back to the homeland. Qi Juyin jabbed the dagger back into her belt. Staring into the blazing flames, she said, I'll be heading back tomorrow. You can come along. When dawn broke the following day, Qi Juyin set out with Lu Guangbai for the Li Bei homeland. 2 days later, they arrived in the dead of night. Xiao Jiming didn't alert anyone. He stood at the bottom of the steps to receive them personally. A light snow was falling when Lu Guangbai dismounted. He regarded Xiao Jiming with a gaze at once familiar and foreign. Qi Juyin tossed her riding crop to Qi Wei, and gave Lu Guangbai's shoulder a pat as she walked up the stairs, a signal for him to follow her. Both looked back at Lu Guangbai, silently urging him to come along. Iron horse on river ice, Xiao Jiming. Windstorm through the scorching plains, Qi Juyin. Beacon smoke and rising sand, Lu Guangbai. They had chased one another throughout those years of their youth, all of them too shy to voice their own ambitions. Back then, it had felt as though no matter how much time passed, they would always stand in the shadow of their father's radiance. But the churning waves of time had toppled those walls that had sheltered them. Now, they finally reunited again amid the heavy storm. Well, that's beautiful. Lu Guangbai met their eyes and took a step forward on his journey home. He first paid his respects to Xiao Fengshu, then followed Xiao Jiming and Qi Juyin into a remote courtyard. Xiao Jiming led them into a small room, warmed by an underfloor heating system until it was almost stifling. This is so not important, but I'm so curious how, those underfloor heating systems worked in the time period that this is, which I now forget, but I feel like it's the 1800 somethings. Or is it earlier than that? I don't remember. I don't know. Maybe it's earlier than that. I don't remember. I but that's cool. Qi Juyin shed her cloak and settled cross-legged on the floor. The open side door faced us. Oh, it's 1600s. I don't know where I got 1800s from. I was just like, it's later than I think it is. And that was the operating thing in my head. Okay, no, 1600s. Yes. Which, that has me even more curious. How did underfloor heating systems work in the 1600s? I would like to know. Yeah. Qi Juyin shed her cloak and settled cross-legged on the floor. The open side door faced a small pond, and the scattered rocks within were blanketed with a layer of fresh snow. A few branches of green plum blossoms edged along the snow-white paper of the door and slanted across the night sky, the only embellishment in this secluded space. After a moment of silence, Lu Guangbai spoke. "Half a year ago, I left the Bianjun commandery and headed east, into the desert. My goal was to wipe out the Qingshu tribe and take over their pastures so I could station my troops there as support for Bianjun. I failed, so I was forced to go deeper into the desert. In the 5th month, I reached the eastern side of Gedal, where I saw Amor's granaries. It's just as we thought," said Qi Juyin. "Amor's supply lines really do go through Zhongbo." Chopsticks in hand, she absent-mindedly took a few bites. Putting the granaries in the middle is the best option if the intent is to supply both the northern and southern battlefronts. Amor's farm fields are there, too. Lu Guangbai curled his fingers around the teacup and looked up at them. He reclaimed the wastelands east of Gedal and had the Liao Ying tribe farm the way we do, while they send out their falcons to hunt. The Qingshu tribe down south is only there to distract Qidong. Amor has partitioned the land east of Gedal into its own undisturbed region. He carried out his farming experiment there, imitating our military field system, and is presently working on founding a new city." Cool. Awesome. Right. I know it's easy to think of it as ancient China, and it's like, it's not ancient at all. Xiao Jiming and Qi Juyin were both stunned. "We must unify the lines of battle in the north and south," Lu Guangbai said slowly. "And we have to convince Chudu to ease the infighting. Amor has grown into a behemoth. He wants to become the great king on both sides of the Chasha River. I had 3 objectives for this trip up north." Qi Juyin set down her chopsticks and paused for a moment. "The first was to see the scorpions firsthand. The second was to evaluate whether the Libe armored cavalry can still be salvaged. And the third was to persuade Jiming to make peace with Chudu." "That's impossible," Xiao Jiming replied, his tone mild. "Libe has its own supply lines now. We've just formed an alliance with Zhongbo to the south. A truce with Chudu would mean handing over all the advantages we have now. If Libe insists on making an enemy of Chudu, then Chudu will render no assistance to Libe." Qi Juyin said. "You know the Empress Dowager is a stubborn old mule." "I will never." Xiao Jiming's gaze on Qi Juyin was steady, his words resolute. "Ever hand my younger brother over to them again, nor my wife, nor my son. Thank you, Xiao Jiming. Feeling good about you right now. No one will take them from me. Li Bei doesn't need Chudu's assistance. The Empress Dowager should look to the 8 great battalions to ensure her own safety." Xiao Jiming was rarely so blunt. His scholarly and refined appearance often made people forget he was the one who had established Li Bei's camps. Merely half a year ago, he had been the commander of all the northern battlefields. Worried they'd argue, Lu Guangbai began in a soothing tone. It's pointless." Qi Juyin sat up a little straighter and looked at Xiao Jiming. "Xiao Jiming will not agree." Lu Guangbai sighed. "Marshal, but I have to remind you that, before the unification of the battle lines, we are not in the same camp." Qi Juyin gestured to herself, then to Xiao Jiming. "If our armies merge, whose commands do we heed? Meanwhile, Li Bei has to stay on its toes in case Chudu sends its regards. If, and I mean if, Qi Juyin said mercilessly, the Li Bei armored cavalry should lose their commander again, who will assume responsibility for the northern front?" Qi Juyin had long warned Li Bei about the danger of pinning the faith of the entire army on one person. Li Bei was an inflexible iron wall that padlocked its commanding generals to its camps. Zhao Hui had to bring along his 3 great battalions of Liu Yang when he marched north, and Guo Wei Li had to take along his base camp troops when he marched south. The swapping of battle lines was both time-consuming and labor-intensive, and if a commanding general died in battle, the chances of launching a counterattack were almost nil. As a matter of fact, all the camps had experienced this problem in the earliest days, when Great Zhou first set up defenses at the frontier. Due to geographical constraints and varying rules of recruitment, the camps had all developed differently. The commanding general was the heart of the soldiers, and the soldiers were the limbs of their commanding general. If both parties were to have a flawless, wordless understanding of one another, they needed to work together for years or even decades. For this reason, it was a major taboo to change generals just before a battle. Qidong had been the first to realize this problem. They were not like Li Bei, who faced the open grasslands and the treacherous marshes. They had Tianfei Watchtower and Suotian Pass on both sides to shield them. As long as they could maintain the defense of their one and only opening, Bianjun, they could rest easy. Thus, during the reign of Yongyi, Qi Shiyu set the recruitment standard for the entire territory of Qidong. Their soldiers didn't need a specific commanding general. Everyone was familiar with the same battlefield. When Qi Juyin took up her command, she set up the general's barracks in the Tangjun Commandery. More than 10 commanding generals under her went wherever she deployed them, which made it fairly easy to manage all the battle lines. And if any of them were unfortunate enough to become a casualty, it wouldn't affect the overall military situation. But with any gain came losses. Qidong had no generals with such distinctive personalities as the generals from Li Bei. Their standardized selection criteria practically ensured generals with individual styles would remain a rarity in Qidong in years to come. Zhongbo lies between the northern and southern battlefronts, said Xiao Jiming. It's impossible for us to merge, so there's no need to decide whose command to heed. Chudu is now blockaded by Huaizhou, Suzhou, and Chazhou to the northeast. Before they can send any regards to Li Bei, they must first talk to Shen Zichun. As for Li Bei's commander, Juyin, I have long since lost my qualifications to hold this position. Xiao Jiming lifted the teapot with long, slender fingers and brewed the tea with deft movements. Behind the haze of steam, there were no signs of self-pity or reproach to be found in his expression. When Hasen took my father's head, he told Aya he was returning the favor, an eye for an eye. His hands stilled. His face was indifferent as he glanced at Shi Juyin. I know you think the Li Bei armored cavalry is too centralized, but right now, I have no choice but to stick to the well-trodden path. We'll still meet them head-on, and give back every strike we've gotten. The Li Bei armored cavalry's faith does not lie only in my father. If that's what Hasen really thinks, he's grossly mistaken. Our faith lies in the land itself. Hasen defeated my father, but he can never defeat Li Bei. 30 years ago, my father took strength from the land beneath his feet to march forward without fear, and it is with this same strength that Li Bei has come so far today. We will never concede defeat so easily. The new King Wolf is young, strong, hungry for victory. He can step to the fore and take my father's place. When we're ready to fight back, he will swiftly rally the hearts and minds of those who have lost morale. I am not that man, but I have taken over the heavy responsibility of tempering him. He is my blade now. I want him to shine in all his glory when he emerges from his sheath. But from what I've heard, Qi Juyin countered, he hasn't truly engaged with the major camps. Your Li Bei generals aren't the obedient puppies of Qidong. Their hearts and minds have not been won over. But he's familiar with every inch of Li Bei's territory, Xiao Jiming said. He's run through all these roads in the last 6 months. He knows the swiftest paths to deliver supplies, the most direct routes to mobilize reinforcements, and the consumption rates at all the camps. These are all gifts my father gave him, Juyin. These are all gifts my father gave him. Julian, all he lacks is a little time. That's where I come in. Lu Guangbai picked up the thread of conversation, as if on cue. How to go about unifying the battle lines is for both of you to deal with. What I want to talk about is how to deal with Ha Sen and buy some time for Li Bei. You modified the spears of the Bianjun garrison troops, Qi Juyan said, recalling those snow-covered infantrymen. No, let's not manifest anything like that. No. I just looked at the chat. But I mean, I see what you're saying. It does kind of, it sounds, and whenever anyone is like, I don't know. I'm scared. Anything could happen. No one is safe. But we trudge on. That's right. After I lost to the Qingshu tribe, I encountered the other tribes one after another. Lu Guangbai paused for a moment with his hands on his knees. He continued solemnly. I lost every battle. Ah, Qi Juyan racked her brain to console him. That must have weighed heavy. What's more, I was fighting on an empty stomach. I scurried between tribes, fighting for our daily meals. But we kept trading blows. And it was from these skirmishes that I discovered the horseman's weakness. Lu Guangbai turned and retrieved the spear behind him, laying it across his knees. He unwound the strip of cloth covering it to reveal the body of the spear within. You increased the length of the spearhead, Xiao Jiming measured with his outspread fingers. But isn't this a tad too long? You added barbs. Qi Juyan examined it. How did you secure them? Lu Guangbai swatted their hands away and caressed the spear like it was his most prized possession. I am an infantryman. When we fought battles with the Biansha horsemen back in Bianjun, we relied on the terrain to set our ambushes. But there are only sand dunes in the desert. We had none of our previous advantages. I was forced to confront the horsemen head-on. At first, I just wanted to put more distance between us and the enemy, to give us time to make our escape, so I lengthened the haft of the spear. But the spears were too long. It made it hard to hold our bearing when brandishing it, and hard to maneuver in combat. Being unable to turn in time to meet their onslaught would just get us cut down. Lu Guangbai had realized that the horsemen were circling around their flanks to avoid the spearheads at the front of their formation. So I shortened the haft again, but increased the length of the spearhead. Lu Guangbai looked at both of them and smiled. As long as the battle formation is organized so the spearheads face outwards on all four sides, it's a mobile battering ram. If they charge in at high speed, my soldiers can stab them off their horses. The unusually long head of the spear also makes it impossible for them to wrest it away from the other end. Once they're hit, they're unlikely to survive. Henry, not I'd lengthen his spear. Xiao Jiming and Qi Juyan sank deep in thought. That is cool as fuck, though. But the horsemen were quick to react, Lu Guangbai continued. They no longer attacked head-on, but encircled me instead. This felt like fishing, so I took the pike daggers I'd recovered during our battles and secured them perpendicular to the spearheads with some hemp rope. Even if we didn't stab them cleanly, we could use the barbs to drag them off their horses. But hemp rope wears out easily, which is why I'll have to borrow money from you two to forge barbs into this batch of spears. What money? This subject was guaranteed to set Qi Juyan off. I'm a grand marshal, but all I have to my name is a shitload of debt. I even cut the rouge expenses of my father's concubines to help pay it off. Don't talk to me about money unless you want a beatdown. Lu Guangbai turned to Xiao Jiming. Our Li Bei, Xiao Jiming faltered. Shen Zichuan is at home now, too. Maybe you can discuss it with him. Lu Guangbai re-wrapped the spear. He made as if to speak, then hesitated. Eventually he asked, Why is he here? Didn't he used to play for a different side? The world has gone mad, Qi Juyin said. Haven't you heard? Shen Zichuan is now the tiger of Zhongbo. He has a close, mutually beneficial relationship with Li Bei up north, and steers the ship that is the Yan clan of Hezhou down south. He's erected a wall around himself northeast of Chudu. Basically, you can sum him up in one word, which is rich, Xiao Jiming said. Qi Juyin put in, Zhongbo sits between the north and south. The issues we're discussing now all come back to Shen Zichuan. We can't skirt around him. Besides, the so-called unification of battle lines will also require effort on Zhongbo's part. Now is a good time to cut off Amor's supply line there. We can discuss more in depth tonight. He'll be here with his advisor. Xiao Jiming sipped his tea. I just have one question. Qi Juyin rotated her teacup between her palms. What exactly did Li Bei use to convince him? This question stumped Xiao Jiming. After a moment of silence, the heir replied, Looks, I guess. Silence descended over the room. Let's return to the matter at hand, Qi Juyin said, steering the conversation back around. This spear can go up against the horsemen, but it's not suitable for the Li Bei armored cavalry. I fought the scorpions in First Sand Camp. They're not as strong as I expected. Those iron hammers are only effective against your Li Bei armored cavalry. Put them on the battlefields of the south, and they'll become a liability. They pose no real threat to our Qidong garrison troops. In my opinion, Amor won't transfer these scorpions away from the northern battlefield. But as long as they remain, the armored cavalry will be forced to cower inside the camps. They can't meet Ha Sen in the field. Until we find a way to deal with the iron hammers, Xiao Jiming said, defensive battles can buy us time. He did say, I guess. He said, looks, I guess. You spat out your water. Yeah. That's exactly what he said. Hassan's already guessed your strategy. Qi Juyin recalled the details of the battle at First Sand Camp. He added iron shields to his arsenal, and equipped his troops with siege engines from the Empire. Perhaps he's still adapting to them, but he'll find his footing after a few battles. In half a year at most, Ha Sen will be able to use them proficiently. At that point, defensive battles won't be enough to protect Li Bei. Which is why we need the aid of the Qidong garrison troops. Xiao Jiming tapped his fingertips against the teapot absent-mindedly. I'm guessing Amor's field crops on the east of Gadal haven't reached the point where they can support the 4 tribes. He remains dependent on grain from the Empire. Shen Zichuan will choke off Amor's supply lines in Zhongbo. All the Qidong garrison troops need to do is march out of Bianjun and attack the Qingshu tribe. Increasing the pressure on Amor in the south will suffice. Qi Juyin's head had begun to ache. Deploying troops eastward would require approval from the Ministry of War in Chudu. This was unlike the matter of handing over Lu Pingyan. If Chudu cut off their provisions as a result, she would have to deal with the aftermath on her own. But Qi Juyin made no mention of this. She merely nodded to show she'd heard. The next day, Xiao Qia received Meng in the courtyard. After remaining on the front line for days on end, Meng was covered in snow, and his claws were filthy beyond recognition. Xiao Qia allowed him to perch on his arm and cleaned up his feathers and talons. In the midst of this activity, Gu Jin entered the courtyard and spoke a few soft words. Xiao Qia looked back and saw Lu Guangbai standing in the lightly falling snow. Lu Guangbai had just kowtowed to his father, Lu Pingyan. Instead of heading inside to warm up, he sat beneath the eaves and waited as Xiao Qia approached. He couldn't help but exclaim, "You brat, did you grow taller again in the past 6 months?" At this age, Xiao Qia released Meng and settled at Lu Guangbai's side to loosen his arm guard. "I won't be growing any taller." Lu Guangbai sat looking at him, allowing the snow to cover his shoulders. But you will become stronger still. Xiao Jie stroked the arm guard and said nothing. Sa'an, let me tell you a few things. Lu Guangbai no longer called him Ye, but addressed Xiao Jie by his courtesy name. Xiao Jie was not a wolf pup anymore. He could sit at the same table as Lu Guangbai, not just as a little brother, but as an equal. Lu Guangbai looked out into the courtyard. You know of your brother's past, but you don't know the marshals. During the early years in Qidong, the Qi clan had no heir of lawful birth. Qi Shiyu looked for a capable youth among his sons of common birth, to no avail. It was around this time that the marshal declared she wanted to become a general. Qi Shiyu took it as a joke, as did I. I thought there was no way a woman could wield a sword. It was enough that she could hold an embroidery needle. But she was so insistent that Qi Shiyu put her in the Tangjun Commandery garrison troops. But she was so insistent that Qi Shiyu put her in the Tangjun Commandery garrison troops right under his nose. Qi Juyin had thrown herself into her training with great enthusiasm, but she quickly saw the futility in it. She didn't fit in. No one was willing to accept her, much less take orders from her. The soldiers were polite with her, only on account of Qi Shiyu. She insisted on being transferred to the Bianjun Commandery, Lu Guangbai continued. Qi Shiyu entrusted her to my father, but she wasn't one to do as she was told. At that time, my brothers were still at home, and I had no desire to become a general. Once she arrived, I thought at least I'd no longer come in last place. Who'd have guessed she was so tough she'd leave us all in the dust? Qi Juyin had summoned the patience normally required for embroidery to employ in her own training. She got used to the ridicule and knew what they said behind her back, but she never seemed to get angry. She remained in the Bianjun Commandery. Why is it? It's translating people's comments again, and I say translating very loosely because Blue, you said ow, and it turned it into O for some reason. Lu Guangbai brushed snowflakes off his knees. Qi Shiyu let her be, so there she stayed. Lots of her fellow soldiers bullied her when we were in the desert. They yanked her by her ankles and told her to run back home, but all she said was no. She crawled out of those yellow sands with her hands, feet, and even her teeth, suffering blows until she was bruised and battered all over. Back then, she looked like she would eat those people alive. But when Qi Juyin finally stood up on the sand dunes, she had burst into tears. She was on the verge of a breakdown as she shouted, "You pieces of shit!" She had grabbed Lu Guangbai by the collar and questioned him over and over in anguish. What part of me isn't good enough? Lu Guangbai's past unease came rushing back to him as he continued, I almost died of fright. What happened after that? Xiao Jie asked. Did Qi Shiyu take her back? After that, she wiped her snot and tears and dragged her blade back to camp. Lu Guangbai chuckled along with Xiao Jie, but his laughter was followed by a sigh. After that, she attained a small military achievement. Going by the book, she should have been promoted to a squad commander. My father promoted her, but no one was willing to serve under her command. She sat waiting for her men to report from dawn to dusk. Finally, she asked one of the soldiers why he was unwilling to follow her orders. The answer she got was, because you can't even lift an executioner's blade. The Bianjun Commandery garrison troops did not use executioner's blades. Such blades were heavy and cumbersome. Few could truly carry such a thing onto the battlefield. However, Qi Juyin believed it. From then on, she abandoned the slim saber she had previously used and switched to the executioner's blade. Honestly, it was ludicrous. I thought she was stupid back then. It was as if she couldn't understand that the reason everyone rejected her wasn't because she wasn't capable. It was because she was a woman. The words the world had uttered to her most often were, "It's a pity you're a girl." But Qi Juyin herself had never shared the sentiment. To her mind, there was nothing bad about being Qi Shiyu's daughter, just as there was nothing surprising in the fact that some people enjoyed embroidery and others enjoyed the battlefield. Lu Guangbai looked up at Xiao Chia. Qi Shiyu eventually took her back, but she didn't give up when she returned to the Cangjun commandery. She tagged along behind Qi Shiyu's commanding generals and learned everything they knew. She'd already displayed spectacular talent back then, but no one was willing to appreciate it until the battle that year. When all her brothers abandoned Qi Shiyu, no one else in the Cangjun commandery was willing to step forward and face the enemy. That night, Qi Juyin rode across the commandery and knocked on countless doors, only to have them slammed in her face. Against all odds, she left Cangjun commandery and persuaded the various major garrison troops until her voice went hoarse, regardless of whether anyone took heed. Finally, she brought her father home, just as you did. That battle was the beginning of her rise to prominence. It propelled her into the public eye. When Chu Du was unwilling to confer a noble rank or title upon her, many assumed she would be cowed. But Sa'an, I never again saw her cry in anguish the way she did that day in the desert. She matured quickly through all these trials and tribulations. Qi Juyin assumed the position of Grand Marshal of Qidong's 5 commanderies, not because she was obligated to, but because she could. That's exactly where she belongs. She was born to the battlefield. The same goes for you, Lu Guangbai continued. That's the end of the chapter. Where is my bookmark? That's the end of the chapter, and that's where we're stopping for today. And I was thinking that where this was going was exactly that Lu Guangbai was going to say that, like, you can do it too. Because in a weird way, Xiao Chia is in a position not wholly unlike the position that Qi Juyin was in. Obviously, he's not a woman, and he's not facing as much pushback, but there is this sort of, like, attitude, I feel like, of people not wanting to follow him, and where he kind of has to prove himself even more than he already has. I feel like that's the situation he's in right now. So hearing this, I think, is really helpful. Yes, and I agree, Henry. I like that she cried, that it's not just like, she's so strong, she never shows emotion. It's not like that. Yeah, underdog, unappreciated, fierce AF, will prove herself to everyone and anyone, etc. That is, yeah, I am getting a vibe of, like, a similarity. I am worried about the thing that it mentioned, that to do a certain thing, Qi Juyin would need permission from Chu Du, and, like, are they actually going to give it? And the complications that are going to arise from Chu Du, that is definitely going to be a problem. I feel like Qi Juyin is going to, like... I don't think she's going to, like, betray everybody because of the complications with Chu Du. I don't think she would do that. But it presents a problem. So, yeah. Um, oh yeah, she does have a stepmom girlfriend, or will if she tries a bit, right? That's true. I don't know. Is she a foil of Xiaojia? I think, like, in this one particular kind of way, I guess she is. I don't know if she is, like, I don't know. I don't even remember, like, I need to refresh myself on, like, what exactly a foil entails, like, specifically. But there's definitely, like, a parallel being drawn here about their, like, military careers, at least. Um, so I'm glad that we're at this point, because I was nervous about going into this volume. I mean, look, it's Tong Jo Ching. I'm absolutely sold. I absolutely, like, love her, no matter what she writes. But I was a little bit worried. I was like, oh, it's going to be angst central for a little while. And we kind of, like, picked up with the action. But the angst is still there, and I think it's going to sort of, like, show up at various moments rather than being, like, this one long, drawn-out moment. And I really like that. It made it a little bit easier to pick up this volume and just like start reading. But yes, and oh, Blue, you said death flags galore. Yeah, I am worried. Honestly, I mean, I'm worried about like pretty much every single like side character there is. I don't think anyone is safe, unfortunately. But I don't know. But yeah, we did have a break from Xiao while he recovers. Yes. Oh, did I say that at the beginning? Like, it feels like we're gonna have a break from him? We did, yeah. It was like, okay, he's recovering, we know this. And I was really glad that we had that moment, with him. The moment with him and Shen Zichuan where he was, like, able to cry. That was really nice. Also, yes, I agree. Can we let the Danmei woman live? Maybe even both of them? I do think... I don't know. I think Qi Juyin could be okay. I think Qi Juyin and Hua Xiangyi could be okay. I'm manifesting it. They're not going to die. I don't know about everybody else, though. Or did I? Oh, I said that on Discord. See, I'm so out of sorts today. I'm not remembering, like, anything that I've said. I was gonna say, I mentioned it on here before. I started, like, a new channel where I'm doing, like, more, like, audiobook style Danmei reading, where I do a pre-recorded reading, and it's just me reading chapters of the book, and there's no commentary or anything extra like that. And I'm reading another Tong Jo Ching series over there. The channel is called eSoup Reads, and it should be linked in the description of this video if you want to check it out. And I have 3 videos out so far, I believe, and that's 2 chapters per video. And that is sorry, I didn't even say what I'm reading. I'm reading Nanchan by Tong Jo Ching. I'm absolutely loving it. I read volume 1. I recorded that already, which I had already read. And now I'm currently trying to, like, actually read volume 2 on my own before I record it. But either way, that series is amazing. You will see, no, it's different. It's a different genre. I'll just say that. It's a different genre from the series. It's really good. So you can go over there to eSoup Reads to check that out. And I'm doing videos over there twice a week at the moment. It's going to be 3 volumes, and I just checked. It's a Rosme book. I checked, and the Rosme site said that the pre-order for Nanchan Volume 3 is happening, like, June something. So the pre-order is happening soon. I don't know what that means about when we're actually going to get that book. But hopefully that means the book happens this year. And then that series wraps up this year. But yeah, it's 3 volumes, but they're pretty thick hardcover volumes. And I'm doing 2 chapters per video, but, like, that's like a 2-hour video. The chapters are chunky. The way Rosme splits up their chapters is just different, so they're usually a lot longer. Yes, Henry, you said you're a little sad she didn't write more historical politics, but I'm curious to see how she does fantasy. Yeah, I think also, because I saw something about books that Tong Jo Ching is working on, and I could swear that not only is she working on another historical non-fantasy, like, I think it's more political, I don't think it's a fantasy, but she's also working on a Baiha, and it's like a cyberpunk Baiha or something like that. I think the historical one is going to come first, like a historical Danmei, and then there will be Baiha from Tong Jo Ching. So just so you know, yeah, like, look into, like, if you just Google, like, I don't know, books Tong Jo Ching is working on, there's flutters around about both of these things. You're being battered by good news. Yeah, I'm really excited for that. So someone sent me, was it Psykeen or somebody sent me some links to some of that stuff. I don't know. I have it in my Discord somewhere. I'll find it and show it to y'all. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited for I mean, it's going to be a while before that stuff starts like actually coming out with, you know, someone has to pick it up and do a fan translation or whatever, but I'm very excited for both of those. Um, so yes, we will meet at our usual time and day on Wednesday. And until then, everyone have a good time. And I'm manifesting all the good things for this volume. As many good things as are possible. All right. Bye, y'all.